For you buck knife enthusiasts, you will understand that yes, it is kind of an obsession, this buck knife thing, especially the Buck 110. And that's what I'm talking about today, the Buck 110. I am carrying it on my side right now. Here it is, 2019 Buck 110, 440 HC steel. Is it garbage steel? Absolutely, it's garbage steel, but it's heat treated nicely. This keeps a good edge. It's not something that I would want to try and skin out a bunch of deer with. Another Buck 110. This one has S30V. They all have the Paul Boss heat treat, and each one is dialed in for that particular steel. This S30V is going to outperform most S30Vs out there. The only one that I would put it up against really is Spyderco. Not so much Benchmade. I think Benchmade makes their knives a little on the soft side. That's just my opinion. And I'm sticking to it. I have an S30V 940 right here. Now, of course, that's not the handle that came with it, but this is the blade. And I find myself having to really fool around with the bevel for it to hold an edge. All I did was basically strop this from the factory, and it holds a great edge and springs right back to life if I do hit anything particularly hard or cut a shitload of cardboard. Cardboard is really rough on a knife. You don't think so? Take a new knife, cut some cardboard, and look at the scratches. Yeah, those scratches aren't just scratching the side. They're monkeying with your edge too. Why don't I carry this Buck 110 with the S30V as much as I do this one? That's a great question. They both have great lockup. Let's say this is a 10. No, wait a minute. We're going Spinal Tap. This is an 11. This is a 10. As far as any kind of wiggle on lockup. Perfectly centered blade, perfectly centered blade. When I bought this one at Walmart, it was $38. Now they're $65. And that happened during COVID. I bought this right before COVID, 2019. I got a 2019 knife in 2019. What the hell happened? One from 1981. This is the one that turned me on to buck knives to begin with. I got lucky. I happened to get one that had super solid lockup, great blade grind, nice and even, blade centered, perfect wood, which hasn't swollen or shrunk since 1981. I mean, honest to God, I really got lucky. The only thing I've done to this knife other than convex the edge when I learned about convexing about 15 years ago was rounding all of the surfaces of the brass and the wood to kind of make it resemble what's available now. You can see that that's much more rounded than this. These are definitely squared. The squareness of the knife kind of makes the knife feel unfinished. It also makes it uncomfortable for long periods of use. It also makes it heavier. These are lighter. That's a lot of brass. So that's a perfect knife. And that didn't just happen overnight. I kept buying Buck 110s and checking them out and thinking, okay, this one, that's about as good as the lockup I'm going to get. And then I'd stumble upon another one. And that lockup might be just incrementally better. Give away that other one. Worked my way up to this one, which is bank vault lockup, like I said, 11. So here's a 10 with S30V. You would think the buck stops there. Who writes this shit? Oh my God. So why would I go to Walmart and buy another? I don't know. I got a major league problem. I can't help myself. They had one display and one in a box underneath. I always ask to see both because they're never consistent. This had a lovely lockup. It's right on par with my S30V, so I would say this is a 10. The way to avoid any kind of surprises is to buy them when they come in a box. Don't buy the blister pack knives. The first thing that you can't tell is if you've got a nice pair of matched scales. They try their hardest at Buck to do that. I would say they do a decent job of that, but you just never know. And you can't tell in a blister pack. You can only see one side. And you certainly can't tell how that lockup is, and if that blade is centered, and if that brass has been ground, you know, nice and even, and if the spine is nice and flat. If it's sideways, you don't want that. Not everybody has a belt grinder that they can fix that with. Here's another thing you're going to want to check, and that you can check when you buy one that's in a box. If it's not in a box, you're on your own. These are made in Mexico. They are well done, heavy stitching. You're going to want to look at the thickness of this leather, and the thickness of this leather, and the thickness of this leather. Are they all very similar? If they are, that's a nice sheath. You want this to be relatively thick because this is going to be holding a lot of weight for a long period of time and moved around a whole lot. You don't need this failing on you. You don't need the stitches pulling through because the leather was thin. You also don't want a thin, flappy piece of leather for this. You want it to be substantial. It's going to be tight at first. I don't force the knife in all the way when I first get one of these. I push it in the proper way, and then I kind of look at where the flap is hitting the sheath, and then I just push it down a little bit more, and then if the snap can reach and there's just a little bit of tension up there, then that's going to form a nice pocket here to hold the knife. This is going to break in, and you can see on this one possibly, it's already starting to show the dents of the top of the handle, and that's a good break-in spot. The flap will be able to reach, and you'll be able to do that in your sleep, blindfolded, whatever. But you will never have a knife wiggling around in your sheath. This will stay secure. It'll break in that way. One other thing that you're going to want to look for in your sheath, and they're inconsistent. Sometimes they have them, sometimes they don't, is a little felt pad on the opposite side of this snap. If you do not have a felt pad on the opposite side of your snap, I suggest you put something there. You can go to Home Depot or a craft store and get little felt discs that have stickum on it for putting on pictures or putting, who the hell knows? You can put them anywhere for cabinets, whatever. Works perfectly. Why do you want that? I mean, I don't like marking up my knives. If you don't care, then don't put something there. But what will happen, and this has a very faint mark on it. This is my 1981 version. I didn't know about the felt things. And then one day I went, what's this mark? Oh. And I put a piece of felt there. The felt is very easily applied. Use tweezers, lay it in there like a surgeon, stick it down. Perfect. You will never have a round mark on your beautiful ebony scales of your Buck 110. I am now going to put this away, get out of the garage. It is rather chilly. Thank you very much for watching. I, of course, do appreciate it, and I will see you on the next one.